Oh, morning. How you doing? No, seriously, how are you doing? Are you nervous? Are you confident? Have you been drinking already? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. She is Bugsy Malone. This is episode 79 of Tottenham Walks. And it's a special one, guys, because today is game day! It's the big one! The final before the finals. Tottenham Marseille, away in France. From what I've been gathering on Twitter, the French military police were out in full force last night. Pepper spray at the ready, trying to create an intimidation led atmosphere, trying to scare the bejesus out of Tottenham fans, keep them in check, numb their excitement and energy levels. Clever tactics from the Marseille police. Guys, look, before we get going on this pretty brief review, I hope it's going to be brief. I always say that, it never really is. Do me a favour for me, please, if you wouldn't mind, smash the like, the subscribe, and the notification buttons, as it helps the algorithm push the content out to more people, just like you, who may enjoy listening to me waffle on as we take the dog for a walk every day. Guys, one last thing before I get going. At the end of the video, or right now if you want, drop a comment and let me know, well, at least let me know what your score prediction is. But if you have any more hot takes or cold takes of how you'd like to see us get through this tough game, let me know as well. Let's get going, guys. Look, as you might or will be aware, it is D-Day. We need to get a result. If we lose today, we are at best in the Europa League. And if it was by a very, very poor set of circumstances, I'm not convinced, but I think the math suggests that we can still end up fourth if we lose by a significant amount of goals and then the results go the wrong way in the other game. Obviously, if we draw, we're through. And then depending on what happens in the other game between Sporting and Frankfurt, we could either be first or second. If we win, we go through as champions of the group. The difference between finishing first and second is pretty stark. We can't play, no team can play a team from the same nation in the round of the last 16. So regardless of what happens, if we do qualify, we don't get to play Liverpool, Chelsea or Manchester City in the last 16. Those fixtures become available in the last 8 if we get there. But obviously, depending on where they finish and where we finish, it will determine a lot about who would be available for us in the round of last 16. For example, if we were to finish top and by hook or by crook, all 3 of the other teams, those English teams, were to finish second, then we can't face the teams that are in their group that finish first, because we would have to be playing a team that finished second of one of the other groups that are available. And counterintuitively, if we finish second and they all finish top of their groups, then that again removes the ability for us to play the team that plays second in the groups that they're in. And look, of the other groups, there is some absolute monsters that you want to avoid. For me, the top 2 teams that we would want to avoid if we ended up drawing tonight would be Bayern Munich and Napoli. I feel like Napoli are just on a different level this year. They're just blowing past teams, smashing them with this non-stop aggressive football. And we would get, in my opinion, absolutely murdered by them if we had the misfortune of getting them at this, with the current setup of the team, injury problems and the current kind of confidence, I think. So avoid them at all costs. Obviously, we'd like to avoid Bayern Munich. Obviously, we'd like to avoid Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, which really doesn't leave much. Club Brugge, and they're no pushovers. I did a video about a kid who plays for them called Skov Olsen, who I think is absolutely delectable as a up-and-coming talent. You can check that video out by clicking above and see it right there. But yeah, finishing second leaves you with very, very few lucky breaks available in all likelihood for the last 16. Now look, for me, getting to the last 16 is about par for the course for Tottenham, I think. Anything beyond that, quarterfinals, semi-finals, finalists or winner, obviously I think is an overachievement for where we're at. But not getting past the group stages is an underachievement or a failure. So I don't really care too much. We'll worry about that bridge when we come to it. But obviously it'll be ideal to win. And then we have to face probably slightly less fierce, less terrifying opposition in the last 16. But who knows? We'll see what happens. All we've got to do is figure out how to get through. How do we do that? Well, look, we've got no Antonio Conte. He's got red carded in the last game. Still don't really understand what he did wrong. He ran onto the pitch along with everybody else and he got red carded. I don't know. He said he didn't say anything nasty. Whatever, doesn't matter. He's not there. So the decisions around in-game tactics goes to the assistant manager. Now, we don't really know too much about this guy, do we? If I'm entirely honest, I can't even remember his name right now. Forgive me. It will come to me in a second. But he's got to make the decisions. Now, usually, not having a manager on the sidelines would be an absolute disaster because you look for him to make the key core decisions if the game goes in certain directions when necessary. But I think with Antonio Conte, first of all, being naturally more kind of game plan, strategized as a manager rather than someone who kind of adapts on the go. In my experience with him at Tottenham, at least for the first 10 games, until recently, he was very, very reluctant to make changes. He had a game plan. He liked to allow it to kind of figure itself out. He can't do that today. If things go wrong, he's going to have to rely on the assistant manager to kind of adapt on the fly. Also, if we need a half-time rollicking, then that could also be a problem. Bugsy, leave the moo alone, please. Leave the cow alone, please. Come on, Bugsy. Come on, stop it. Yeah, look, how many times this season have we relied on a half-time arse-kicking from Conte? That's not going to happen. So, it is bad news. It is bad news. But I would imagine that Conte has spoken with his assistant and got 4 or 5 different options or scenarios figured out. If we're at this stage in the game and we're playing this way and we're comfortable, do this. If we get to half-time and we're at this point in the game and it's not going so well, do this. This is where I would like to, all things considered, make the substitutions. These are the people I'd like to bring on in these scenarios. I'd imagine that that's what they've done. It'd be silly not to. But let's find out. It is a big hit because it's such an important game and you'd love to have your, the biggest profile character available for the before, during and afterwards, or at least at half-time. We can't have that. We also don't have Kulusevski. We also don't have Romero. And we don't have Richarlison. Everybody else is available. So you go to, well, are we going to play a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2? Bugs, go back. For me, I would imagine that they're going to go 3-5-2. I don't think it's as simple as saying, well, without Romero, you bring Sanchez back in. Sanchez was so woeful against Bournemouth. And when Eric Dyer came on and played on the right-hand side, he actually got himself into some really interesting positions. Did nice little 1-2s with, I think it was Sessignon at the time on the right wing-back spot. And managed to get some decent crosses in. So I'm not entirely against the idea of going Davies, Longley, Dyer as a back three. I think that would probably breed more confidence to me than having Longley, Dyer, Sanchez. Let me know your thoughts on that one. Who would you want to see as the three at the back? Like I say, I think it's all an experiment, isn't it? Still, and it's not the ideal scenario to be experimenting. Right wing back for me, I think you probably give Matt Doherty the reins. I know that some of you will think, pick your poison, because neither of them are very good. But, one second. And then on the left wing back spot, I think, look, despite the fact that Sessegnon was, available for a goal, and I think Sessegnon did okay on the right wing back side as well when he came in. If I'm honest, I think you've got to give it to Perisic tonight. He's got the Champions League experience. He's got a bit of a calmer head about him. He's probably been in this situation a few more times than Sessegnon has. So it's a day to look to the wise guys, like the wise heads in your team, and lean on experience. Then you go, well, should we go for, is it a 3-4-3? And in that case, you would go for the two most consistent players in Højbjerg and Bentancur. And then the three of Sonny, Kane, and one of either Moura and Hill. Or do you drop Moura or Hill and play Bissouma? For me, I think I prefer to see us go 3-4-3 from the start, because I don't want to see us go a goal down and have to chase the game again. And I think I know it sounds crazy to say it, but the more defensive formation, for me, in the 3-5-2, leaves us somewhat more vulnerable to going a goal down, because we're not creating enough threat going forward. And attack is the best form of defence sometimes. The fact that Marseille have to come after it as well, because they need a win, will mean that the game should be a little bit more open. And consequently, for me, I'd like to see one of either Bryan Hill or Lucas Moura come in. As much as I'd like the idea of giving Bryan Hill minutes, I don't think he's necessarily got the experience, and I think Lucas Moura does. Come of the hour, come of the man. This could be a night where Lucas Moura becomes a hero for Tottenham Hotspur once again, like he did in Ajax 4 years ago. So for me, I'd like to see us go 3-4-3 with Hugo Lloris in goal, Dyer on the right of Longley, and Davies on the left. I'd like to see Matt Doherty and Perisic take up the wing-back slots, Højbjerg and Bentancur doing their usual double act in the middle, and then I want to see a dynamic and very fully focused and aggressive Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, and Lucas Moura giving up the last three spots of the team. And if things don't go well, then we could look to Bryan Hill. Or sometimes if things aren't going well, moving from a 3-4-3 to a 3-5-2 doesn't necessarily change the inability or offer an inability to get forward. It depends on the reason why we'd be struggling. If we're struggling because we're getting overrun in the midfield because Guendouzi and Veretout are just in charge, then maybe you might need to bring on a Bissouma or a Skip to level the playing field. But apart from that, I think that the 3-4-3 is probably the way to go. I want to see us playing from the first minute, guys. I want to see us not being scared. Don't be intimidated by the atmosphere. I'm pretty sure the Marseille stadium has some limitations on capacity, so it's not going to be as scary as it would otherwise be. But we'll see about that. And I think that Tottenham have more than enough about them in the 11 that goes onto the pitch to be able to compete, to be combative, and to get the job done. I'm going for a tight 2-1 win to Tottenham with Lucas Moura and Harry Kane getting the goals for us. Let me know your thoughts, guys. I will see you today at 2:30. I'm going to be on Never a Foul for a Champions League preview show with Kaz and Mo. And then at 6:30 on We Are Tottenham TV for the Pump Up show. And then Wi-Fi dependent, I should be able to be with my boys at the Irish Hotspur for the actual watch along. Get behind the team today, boys and girls, if you're watching. Have some fun. Don't get too scared. Let's enjoy it. That's what we qualified for the Champions League for in the first place, for nights like these. Let's go. I love you all. I'll see you next time. As always, guys. As always. Bye-bye.